The year was 1525 BCE. In the golden heat of the Nile Valley, the sound of war drums echoed across the river. Villagers dropped their baskets and fled into the shadows of palm groves. The great kingdom of Kemet, the land the world would one day call Egypt, stood at the edge of chaos. In the palace at Wazit, a boy sat in the shadows of the towering columns. His name was Khamari, only 12 years old. His skin was deep bronze, his hair black and braided tightly against his head. His tunic was plain white linen, nothing like the golden robes of the royals, yet his eyes burned with something the high priests could not ignore. For Khamari was not just any boy. He was the son of a Nubian general and a palace servant, born in secret and hidden from the pharaoh's court. His father had died defending the southern border from raiders, and his mother worked in the royal kitchens. He should have been just another servant child. But fate had other plans. That night, the stars over Kemet burned brighter than usual. The high priest of Ammonius, an old man named Nebra, entered the palace silently. In his hand was a scroll sealed in gold. Inside it, a prophecy was written, one that had been kept hidden for 2 decades. From the blood of a warrior and the womb of a servant shall rise a ruler greater than all before him. He shall unite the 2 lands, but only through rivers of blood. Nebra's wrinkled eyes fell upon Khamari, who stood barefoot in the torchlight. The old priest bowed. "Boy," he said, his voice heavy with meaning, "the gods have chosen you." Khamari laughed bitterly. "Chosen? I scrub floors and carry water. Chosen for what?" Before Nebra could answer, the sound of horns cut through the night. The Hyksos, foreign invaders from the north, had breached the outer defenses. Soldiers poured into the streets, their bronze weapons glinting in the moonlight. In the chaos, Khamari's mother grabbed his hand. "Run," she cried. But an arrow struck her before they could reach the courtyard. She fell without a sound. Khamari froze, staring at her lifeless body. Nebra seized him by the arm. "If you die tonight, the prophecy dies with you. Come." The old priest led him through secret corridors beneath the palace, passages carved centuries before to hide the royal family in times of war. They emerged in the temple of Ammonius, where flickering oil lamps cast long shadows on the stone walls. There, Nebra knelt before the boy. "Khamari, you are of royal blood. Your father's line comes from the ancient kings of Nubia, and your mother's spirit is blessed by the gods. The pharaoh is dead, killed in the fighting. You are the rightful heir, though the generals will not accept you." Khamari's voice shook. "How can I be pharaoh? I am only a boy." Nebra placed a hand on his shoulder. "The gods care not for your age. They care only for destiny." But destiny would not wait for him to grow. That night, the generals of Kemet gathered in the Hall of 2 Thrones to decide the next ruler. Most wanted a seasoned warrior to lead the war against the Hyksos. None even considered the barefoot boy hiding in the temple. Then a messenger burst into the hall, blood on his tunic. "The northern gates have fallen. The enemy marches toward the palace." Panic erupted. Some generals shouted to flee to the south, others demanded they fight to the last man. In the chaos, Nebra stepped forward, holding the golden seal of the pharaoh. "I present to you," he declared, "Khamari, son of the warrior general Bahari, blessed by the gods and chosen by prophecy." Gasps filled the hall. Some scoffed, others spat on the floor. One general, a tall man with scars across his face, snarled, "A boy cannot lead armies." But before any could argue further, the sound of battle filled the courtyard outside. The Hyksos had breached the final walls. Nebra turned to Khamari. "If you wish to live, if you wish to save Kemet, you must act now. Command them, as a pharaoh would." Khamari's heart pounded. He stepped forward, his voice rising above the noise. "Generals of Kemet, listen to me. If we scatter, the enemy will hunt us down like jackals. But if we stand together, we can drive them into the river." Some hesitated. Others nodded. The scar-faced general drew his sword and dropped to one knee. "Then I fight for the boy king." That night, under the blazing torches of the palace, Khamari stood at the head of an army for the first time. His orders were sharp, his courage unshaken. They fought through the streets, pushing the Hyksos back inch by bloody inch. The Nile ran red before dawn, but the city still stood. As the first rays of sunlight struck the palace walls, the soldiers knelt before him. The scar-faced general raised his voice, "All hail Pharaoh Khamari, Lord of the two lands." But deep in the shadows, not everyone knelt. In the far corner of the courtyard, a cloaked figure watched with cold, calculating eyes. This man had his own plans for Kemet, and for the boy who now wore the crown. His name was Menker, high priest of the old gods, a man who believed the throne should belong to the priests, not a mere child. Menker's eyes followed every move of the young pharaoh, his mind already weaving a web of deceit. Khalid, the boy from the Nile who fate had lifted to the highest seat in the land, was barely 13. His frame was slender, his voice still held the softness of youth, yet the golden crown sat heavy on his head. In public, he spoke with confidence, but in the silence of the royal chambers, he often wondered if the gods had made a mistake. Life in the palace was a world away from his days as a fisher boy. Golden pillars rose like trees to the sky, floors shone like still water, and servants bowed at his every glance. But with power came whispers, and whispers in Kemet could be sharper than any blade. One night, Khalid wandered alone into the Hall of Ancestors. The moonlight poured in through tall, narrow windows, casting silver stripes across the carved walls. Statues of great pharaohs stared down at him, their stone faces frozen in pride. They were warriors, builders, conquerors, Khalid thought. And I am just a boy. From the shadows stepped an old man in linen robes, the palace scribe, Horam, a loyal servant to the throne. "Great Pharaoh," Horam said softly, "even the mightiest kings once feared their first day on the throne. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is ruling despite it." Before Khalid could answer, a deep horn echoed across the palace walls. Guards rushed through the corridors. Horam's expression darkened. "Trouble has come," he whispered. At the gates of the palace, an envoy from the southern borders had arrived, battered and bleeding. His voice trembled as he spoke, "Nubian raiders have crossed the river. Villages burn. They march for Kemet's gold." The council met at once. Menker, the high priest, was quick to speak. "We must send offerings to the Nubian warlord. Appease him, and he will turn back." His words dripped with false concern. But Khalid felt the fire of the Nile in his veins. "No," he said firmly. "Kemet bows to no man. We will defend our people." The council chamber fell silent. A child had just defied the most powerful priest in the kingdom. That night, under torchlight, Khalid met with his most trusted guards. "If the people are to follow me," he said, "they must see me fight for them." Plans were drawn, scouts dispatched, and the palace prepared for war. Days later, the sands of the southern desert shook with the sound of marching feet. The Nubians came in great numbers, their shields black as night, their spears glittering under the sun. Khalid rode at the head of his army, the golden crown replaced by a bronze war helmet. In his hand, he carried not a royal scepter, but a spear. The battle that followed was fierce. Arrows filled the sky like deadly rain. The clash of shields echoed across the desert. Khalid fought with the courage of 10 men, his spear striking true, his voice shouting orders above the chaos. The sight of their young pharaoh in the thick of battle lit a fire in the hearts of his soldiers. By sunset, the Nubians were driven back across the river. The people of Kemet cheered as Khalid returned, his armor dented, his hands trembling from exhaustion, but his spirit unbroken. But in the high temple, Menkar's rage grew. The boy had not only survived, he had become a hero. And heroes, Menkar knew, could not be controlled. That night, as the celebrations echoed through the city, Menkar gathered his most loyal followers in the darkness of the temple. "If the boy remains on the throne," he hissed, "our power will fade. It is time for the gods to claim him." Somewhere deep in the palace, Khalid slept, unaware that the real battle for his crown was only beginning. This was just one of the many untold stories of Africa's hidden past. Imagine how many more lie buried in the sands of time. Like, subscribe, and follow Dark Africa Files for more hidden history they never taught you in school.